Welcome to another Big News Wednesday. Buckle up, everybody. It's politics time. I'm Iadarola. Sharon Reed is here for Big News Wednesday. Sharon, how's it going?
It's going great. What did we do before this show? I mean, we need this show in these times.
We existed with lower blood pressure. No, but anyway, no. Look, real stuff is happening. Things are developing every day. The feeling in my gut about it changes every day. I don't know how everybody in the audience is feeling. Everybody in the audience, I'm looking, if you're on the podcast, you may not know this, but I watch the chat on YouTube and Twitch Live. Use one word, how you feeling? What's a good word for how you feel right now? I would love to know. Feel free to put an emoji. We have some great ones, by the way. We have a crying donkey. Maybe that would work, actually, shockingly well for the current political situation. But anyway, we've got some exciting stuff to talk about. Possibly progress on the investigation into Clarence Thomas, one of the most openly corrupt members of the judiciary. So we'll have that. We've got some polling updates. We've got some, hey, Melania. She came back in out of the cold and she's now doing events, not really for Trump, but for the Republicans. So we're gonna break that down. We've got updates on the whole VP thing and we got a lot of stuff, okay? So everyone, I'm gonna need you to buckle up for that. Hit the like button if you haven't already and send us a comment, a tweet, a super chat, and you may get yourself a Blue Apron gift card. But with all that, you ready to jump into the news of the day?
I'm born ready and wondering if Melania has a post note that includes a certain number of appearances.
You need to do two, okay? It's a 2-drink minimum on this thing. But anyway, perhaps we'll get into that. But no, I want to jump into this. I know some people are saying demoralized. No, I get it. But don't worry, there's good stuff coming and you don't have to wait long. There is good stuff I can guarantee you coming in the next week. Not about politics, but I believe Deadpool and Wolverine opens up on the 16th, and that's gonna be pretty good. So we got that going for us, America. And with that, let's jump into the news.
Tonight, I'm officially offering Joe the chance to redeem himself in front of the entire world. Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president.
So that's Donald Trump trying to light a fire under Joe Biden or just get a little bit of fun out of the situation that the Democrats are in a difficult position right now. They're weighing their options for the future and Donald Trump gets to just sit on the outside and mock what's going on. That's where he's most comfortable. And so that's what he's going to do. He's laying out, he's like sort of throwing down the gauntlet about this second debate. Now bear in mind in the background of all this, the Trump team doesn't want him to drop out. And so honestly, if Biden were to take him up on his challenge, and if it didn't go well, you might think that's good news for Donald Trump, but according to the reports coming out of his campaign, it would not be. And I will say this, and we're gonna get to the other challenge Trump is throwing down to Biden. I think this is ridiculous. It's not serious. He doesn't actually mean it, but Biden should do it. I think Biden should do it. And basically, if you just read what everyone's been saying, everyone should kind of want him to do it. I mean, if you're one of the Democrats who wants Biden to step down, you probably want that because you think that the first debate performance was indicative of an ongoing issue where he's just not going to be able to do it anymore. Well, then in that case, they do the second debate, he'll probably fail, and so you'll be happy. It'll be confirmation of what you already believed. If you don't believe that the first debate was representative of Joe Biden, if you think he is better than that, more competent than that, this is the best possible way to do it. Run it back, give him another try. Maybe they'll do it a little bit earlier in the day. We know that Joe Biden doesn't want to do the late events. He'll be more prepped. He'll be able to adapt based on the reaction of the first one. And so whether you want him gone or you want him to stay, this should be what you want. Hell, if you just want a distraction, something entertaining to watch, we'll have that too. And so I think that he should take him up on it. I don't think that he will, Sharon. I don't think it's a serious offer, but what do you make of it?
I think he should as well. And I think there's a chance he'll take him up on it. As long as the rules are different, where, moderators jump in. I don't know if Trump would then say, no, we're not doing it that way. And there's none of this time limit, cut a mic thing. I think he should do it. After all, it's leader of the free world. You're the president of the United States. You want another term. So I don't think there's a way to avoid this litmus test, if you will. I think he's becoming increasingly confident, but there's no way that he can go anywhere but up after that debate performance. So yeah, hell, why not? Yeah.
Again, I don't think that it will happen, but I will say, look, we're not going to play like a whole bunch of that Trump rally footage or whatever, but there were plenty of instances, again, of Donald Trump having some issues. The sort of classic thing where he tries to say a word and he messes up halfway through and his head jerks to the side and then he says it again. He tries to play it off like nothing happened. I'm not saying he's about to die or anything, but it doesn't physically look good what's going on in his brain. And so just to be fair, obviously, on the channel, we've been pretty critical of Joe Biden coming out of that debate, but we've also been showing you footage of Donald Trump's degradation for literally months. So are we not merciful? But that said, as we talked about earlier with the report from Maggie Haberman, like he is sort of delighting in this. I took a screenshot of his Truth Social. And this was 4 truths, one after the other. I didn't edit this together or whatever. He's just constantly tweeting about the debate, tweeting about Joe Biden. He's tweeting about what literally everyone is saying about Joe Biden. He is trying to have as much fun as he can with this. But I wonder if they were to have this debate, if it would be as much fun. Because he could lose or he could win. And either of those isn't necessarily a great thing for him. I do want to just do something. We don't normally do this live in the A block or whatever, but I want to give a Blue Apron gift card to JF Me 81. If you haven't already gotten one, send an email to rewards@TRTnetwork.com for this comment. He says, so do the debate, you go out, you go to the podium, you're asked for your opening statement. He says, announce Harris taking over an opening statement and let her debate, Trump would get wrecked. Imagine that, he announces it, walks off the stage, she comes on, Donald Trump would be like, no, I wasn't prepped for this. I'm not even saying that I think that Harris is the best debater, but Trump would be thrown for a loop, several loops actually, and that would make for compelling footage. It's got WWE written all over it. I just think that'd be pretty cool. What do you think?
If she enters, can she be laughing? He's been calling her laughing Kamala. I would love that if she were, just cackling all the way to the podium. And then, and maybe if there is that little ding ding when it's your turn's up, instead it's like that laugh track that they play. I think that would be wonderful.
Oh my God. Oh, I would just want to see it. I bet he'd storm off the stage. I bet he'd refuse to do it and he'd look like a little wuss. But anyway, as I alluded to earlier, that is not the only challenge that Joe Biden threw, or that Donald Trump threw to Joe Biden. Here's the other one, probably more serious, honestly.
In the debate, Sleepy Joe also declared that he wanted to test his skills and stamina against mine on the golf course. Can you believe this? I'm also officially challenging Cricket Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot. That means 20 strokes in case you don't play golf. I will give him 10 strokes aside, and if he wins, I will give the charity of his choice, any charity that he wants, $1 million.
So first of all, he would never actually pay if he did lose. Second of all, I would be a happy man if I went the rest of my life never hearing him repeat over and over 10 strokes, 10 strokes. Yeah. Also, for fairness, he's offering 10 strokes to Joe Biden. I'm gonna hope and pray that he gets at least 1 stroke. But anyway, it's a golf joke. If you don't know golf, Donald Trump, I just want you to have one. But anyway, I think that is a more serious offer. I don't think it's a totally serious offer because Joe Biden did basically take Trump up on that on the debate stage. He was saying he wants to do it. I don't think Donald Trump actually wants to play golf against him, even though that is what he puts all of his time in. He clearly thinks he's good at it. Remember, he basically like set up golf courses to run tournaments so that he could automatically win. Like, this is super important to him. I wish that they would actually golf. I would warn Biden, though, before doing this, Trump has been certainly practicing just in case this happens. Up until like that rally, he had largely disappeared since the debate, and he was just golfing for about a week and a half. There had been great credible reporting of that. He was just basically rolling around. And I'm sure that he thinks that it's a thing of stamina or something. I personally don't think that like driving to a place where you step out, hit a ball, and then get back in it is like the biggest test of your stamina necessarily. But that said, when this reporting came out, Trump's team did not like it at all. Their spokesperson said that it was fake news, obviously saying fake news by the Biden campaign. It wasn't even the Biden campaign that was putting out these reports, by the way. President Trump participated in a 4th of July event last week and previously held a rally in Virginia. Yeah, that was like a week and a half ago. So he did take that time off. He's also done numerous media interviews, unlike Biden, who needs to be handed questions beforehand. Like, yeah, he called into Steve Bannon's show. He didn't travel. That's not campaigning. And I would argue, I mentioned this on the show yesterday, you don't need to have the questions given to you in advance when you know there's no chance you'll ever be asked a tough one. Like, you don't need to know which way they're going to massage you ahead of time. You just lay there and let your lackeys do it. Sometimes literally. But anyway, the only real appearance he had was, and we showed you the footage last week, there was video of him slumped over on a golf cart mocking Joe Biden and Harris. And so he's certainly getting in a lot of golf. And maybe it's because, he wants to just let Biden's got, a bad news cycle going on. Maybe he doesn't want to interrupt that or something. But honestly, I think it's probably easy for him to convince himself to just golf rather than do anything. That's what he did back when he was president. And I'm sure if he becomes president again, he'll probably go back to visiting the golf course a couple times a week. But Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's true. The leaders of his campaign, I think, are, dare I say it, doing a wonderful job. Donald Trump, as you said, he doesn't want to work hard. He wants to drive that cart around a golf course. And they wanted to make sure that he didn't dominate the news cycle after Joe Biden fell and the world heard it. So they said, your next event is a ways off. And he didn't bother to question that because he doesn't really care about strategy. They didn't want him doing rallies like that and calling Chris Christie a fat pig and just going off message. What's going on, as you said, with Joe Biden is frankly enough.
Yeah, and that wasn't a random example that Sharon was giving there. He did go on a deranged rant about how hot some waitress was that he saw, and then, sorry, you're not supposed to talk physical. I mean, she's beautiful inside. You're not supposed to say that. Some guy said to me, Chris Christie's a fat pig, and I said, hey, sir, don't say that. That was the former president, perhaps next president, melting down live at a rally. And so again, justifiable concern about Joe Biden's brain. We are not pretending that Donald Trump has it together, though. Now, that said, let's turn away from Trump and back to the other side of the aisle. If you want Joe Biden to remain the nominee, things seem to be moving in your direction. There's a lot of reporting that the rebels in Congress, like specifically the House members and some of the anonymous senators on the Democratic side who had been like looking to put pressure on Biden to step down, see their revolt crumbling, and they don't see it as likely to succeed. For a couple of different reasons. First of all, Joe Biden is repeatedly saying that there's nothing short of God himself appearing that would make him leave. But also, they're kind of playing like the long game of just wait it out. Day by day, it becomes harder and harder to replace him. And so these might be working. Now, it isn't to say that there aren't those who are still pressuring him, including notable Democrats, both elected and otherwise. And I want to give you some of the big breaking stories of the day on that. We're going to start with Nancy Pelosi, one of the most notable and powerful Democrats in the country.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short.
He has said he has made the decision. He has said firmly this week he is going to run. Do you want him to run?
I want him to do whatever he decides to do. And that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with.
That is an interesting response, isn't it? I mean, for a couple of reasons. One, you just expect that she would endorse him. They're of a like as Democrats. Why wouldn't she support him? Particularly when they're trying to push him out over concerns of his age. And obviously, she's advanced in years. I could see her being perhaps defensive about that. But that said, she just wants to keep distance from the question. He should do what he's going to do. As the interviewer pointed out, well, he already said that he's going to continue. And that's been enough for some Democrats. I mean, AOC and Bernie Sanders are like, well, it's over. He says he's staying. But Nancy Pelosi keeps sort of the door open for him perhaps to step down. Now, coming out of that interview, there's been a lot of focus on the fact that that was what her response was. She is now saying that that is fake news. She says that the New York Times is making it up that she is not encouraging him to stay in or endorsing him. But we played the clip for you. We didn't cut it to shreds or anything. So I'll leave it to you to decide what she actually said there. But a lot of the pressure seems to have died away. And yet here comes Pelosi. And we're gonna have others in a few moments. But Sharon, what's your response to that?
Yeah, I listened carefully to her full interview, Morning Joe, this morning, and it was interesting. Okay, the New York Times is not exactly batting 1,000 lately. Okay, you had the whole thing, with the neurologist in the White House, and was Biden even there? But I do believe that the reporting is most likely accurate, and she's hedging because she wants to make sure that should the tide turn tomorrow. Well, on Thursday, the president will have that extended, it could go hours. We're hearing that the press is thirsty and they're gonna light him up, especially that one guy. What was the one guy who was arguing with the press secretary the other day? I mean, he was on fire, okay? And then others were tapping in, and it was like a WWE. What's that match where if I get tired, you tap in? That kind of thing. It was like that, match. And that's what it's going to be like. So I think she's kind of hedging her bets at least until tomorrow, and then she'll convince Schumer if she needs to. Maybe they'll call the former president Obama, and we'll see.
Yeah, I don't look. I've been telling people what I think each day, and yesterday I was pretty down. I'm still down, but Pelosi, I don't know. And it's not just Pelosi. We're gonna turn to perhaps someone even more powerful in American culture in a second. But first, I just want to bring this up. It's totally random. It's not tied to anything. But the Cook Political Report has made some changes to their electoral college ratings. Arizona has moved to lean Republican. Georgia has moved to lean Republican. Minnesota has leaned from likely Democrat to lean Democrat. The single Nebraska district moves from likely Democrat to lean Democrat. New Hampshire also is downgraded, and Nevada has moved from toss-up to lean Republican. I don't know why, probably random. Solar flares or something is probably causing all of this movement towards the Republicans. But anyway, if that was the map, then that would leave Trump 2 electoral college votes from victory, I guess. Look, it's still early, a lot can move. As I think that we've been very fair here at the Damage Report about the polling since the debate. We have pointed out where it is critical. We've pointed out that it is not as big of a change as I would have predicted and did predict. I think both of those things can be true at the same time. But Democrats right now that still want him to step down are said to be panicking and hoping for another public misstep by Biden, which means some of them at least, their hands are off. Like, yeah, we sort of tried pushing him out. It doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. So let's just see about that press conference, I suppose. So everyone, I think, will be tuning into that. But I do want to turn now to some of the other critics of him. And there's minor figures, Michael Bennet, Senator, Richard Blumenthal, Senator. But let's turn to the truly powerful, George Clooney. George Clooney said this: I love Joe Biden as a senator, as a vice president, and as president. I consider him a friend, and I believe in him, believe in his character, believe in his morals. In the last 4 years, he's won many of the battles he's faced. Clooney is no big critic or traitor to Joe Biden or anything. He did say this, but the one battle he cannot win is the fight against time. None of us can. It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe big effing deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed as at the debate. He went on to say that every senator and congressmember and governor that he has spoken to in private believes Democrats, quote, are not going to win in November with this president. And so he was with Biden 3 weeks ago, and he said, when I saw him and I had time with him, he was like the debate Joe Biden. And by the way, very few of those Democratic governors and senators are coming out and pushing for Joe Biden to step down. A few are, but most are not. But behind the scenes, they're telling people we are going to lose in November. And I will also add, we're not gonna play the video, but George Stephanopoulos, who just interviewed Joe Biden a few days ago, he was interviewed, I forget exactly if it was Pug or if it was TMZ or something, but they like accosted him and said, what do you think about Joe Biden? And he said he doesn't think any reasonable person thinks that Joe Biden could serve out the 4 years if he is elected, which is a different sort of consideration. And I would say less consequential. Winning the election is the most important thing. Whether you can continue or whatever is less important, I suppose, still important. But the victory is the important thing. And according to someone like George Clooney, who's he does these fundraisers, he donates a lot of money, he talks to all these people, there is basically no faith that the Democrats can win. And there is nothing worse that can come in November than a loss for the Democrats. And so Sharon, I know a lot of people are not gonna wanna hear this, but what do you make of it?
It makes me suspect something else. I mentioned the former President Obama, a couple minutes ago. I feel like everybody around that president and George Clooney, friends with Obama, Axelrod, and the doctor who was related to the administration in some way, they're all coming out and saying these things or leaking these things. And not a lot of senators have said this or that, but it's the Senate and it's a boys' club. And so they try to, show a little more decorum than the House. But I think that this is not good. I thought Biden might have been out of the woods, a little bit. But now Clooney and others speaking publicly, I feel like maybe they were encouraged and they're all on a party line strategizing. And I think the former president, if not himself, perhaps a representative or a close friend, is in the mix somehow.
Maybe. I mean, I have to imagine George Clooney, who again, he goes back with, I don't think he wants to say this. Like, think about how Biden is gonna respond to that. How some of his other friends, he may know lots of people who aren't as tapped into politics or haven't talked to Biden. And I've seen how much some people don't want to hear that Biden should be replaced. I'm sure George Clooney's social circle probably has a lot of that too. And yet he clearly feels like he has to say something coming out of the experience he had with him. Again, George Clooney is not the kingmaker of American politics. But you've got Nancy Pelosi, you have a couple of senators now. And I'm just saying the forceful, active attempt to force him out, I feel like has largely faltered. But that doesn't mean that there isn't pressure behind the scenes. I don't necessarily think it's gonna succeed, but it seems to be going on. And with that said, we're gonna take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there. Over 9,000 says, to anyone who thinks that replacing Biden helps Trump, are you not going to vote for someone who replaces him? Yeah, look, I think as a base level, that's a fair question to ask. I mean, I've said I want him to be replaced, but if he's the nominee, I'm gonna vote for him and I'm gonna support him. I'm assuming everybody who wants him to stay will support whoever replaces him if he steps down. I would assume. I think it's still fair to say the chaos of replacing could hurt the Democrats. I just think we have to have, a very careful conversation about which is worse, the current status quo where he's losing even more in the polls and was already losing for months, or that chaos but a new candidate. And I think we can have an adult conversation about that. Preston Park says, hey John, I watched you on the Bitchuation Room. I hope you're a guest on Francesca's show more often. I always enjoy your commentary. Thank you. Yes, I was on the Bitchuation Room with Francesca Fiorentini and David Dayan yesterday. Everyone can definitely check that out. And as always, Francesca has her Bitchuation Room Patreon if you want access to some of the bonus content. Okay, Chocolate Addicted Dragon in the members' comments says, hello dragons, boy do I need to bask in the thunderous positivity we get in our cave of truth. Add in a healthy mint chip ice cream float and I'm ready to relax and recharge. Funny that you say that, I have also already eaten ice cream today. But anyway, Bradshaw Cruz says, John, you still riding with Biden? Again, I have said, I think that it would be better for the Democrats if he were to be replaced, but if he's the nominee, obviously I'm gonna support him as I did in 2020 and as I did Clinton in 2016. Neither of them were my choice in the primary, but I don't want Trump in the White House. Okay, let's talk members and how many more we now have because John Fox gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, John Fox. And Bronco gifted 5 memberships. Thank you as well, and Bronco, thank you to both of you. 7 Dust gifted a membership. Thank you. And let's see, Chi Massey, member for 42 months, says, John looks like a Gen Z Max Headroom. I appreciate that. I'm not Gen Z or Gen X for the Max Headroom, but I'm somewhere in the middle, I suppose. Okay, let's see. Brian Simeon, thank you for being a member, much appreciated. Michelle Caban, also, thank you. The Gimptastic Tafali has been a member for 22 months and says, loved you on the Bitchuation Room. Thank you, we had a lot of fun. Francesca prepped a segment called Fash or Smash, where she chose 3 of the sort of like lackeys of Donald Trump and you had to choose one you would be forced to sleep with. Francesca's a wild character, but it was a fun segment. Okay, May Money to Building says in a super chat, John, tell me why I stumbled upon a doc called Man with 1,000 Children. I had nightmares. That was some destroy the human species type stuff. Yeah, I think that's on Netflix. I think it's about a guy who like he just kept donating and like hid the fact that he was doing it or something. I know there was also that doctor who he would do the procedures for people, but he would just use his own material rather than the donors for years and years and years. We are a very flawed species. And I, for one, would like to see some other species get a chance to run things for once. But anyway, Milton Borrell says in super chat, Trump has a Super Mario golf cart so he can speed ahead of everyone else and cheat. Well-documented stuff. Biden said at the debate that he'd play him if Trump carried his own bag. Not gonna happen. That's true. Yeah, he didn't deliver that line the best, but I did like it. And I would also say that thing about him having the faster golf cart so he could get ahead and move the ball. Again, I can't say for sure that it's true, but that has been reported, that has been around for some time. And we know that he'll just pick it up out of the rough and throw it and stuff like that. And I think he does the opposite to other people. He's a massive cheater, which is utterly pathetic when it's a game that you're just playing for fun. Anyway, okay, let's see. We're gonna turn to more news. We'll get to your comments soon, but stick around. Okay, everybody, if you're just joining us now, please hit the like button as we jump into this. The effort by both Donald Trump and other Republicans to distance themselves from Project 2025 continues, but it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it hasn't from the very beginning. We're gonna turn now to an ex-advisor to Mike Pence, Olivia Troy, who points out why it's such nonsense to make these claims now.
So what do you think about Trump distancing himself from Project 2025, given the fact that former officials that were in his administration are part of this? Do you believe him?
Hi, Pam. Well, no. I mean, look, this is preposterous. If you look at the collaborators and the authors of this plan, a lot of these people came from directly people that served in Trump's cabinet during his administration. There are people that I worked with, I sat in policy meetings with. A lot of these people were senior administration officials, whether it be Johnny McEntee was in charge of staffing for presidential personnel, or whether it be Stephen Miller, who's behind the scenes pulling the strings on this as well. But you've got Ben Carson listed in here. You have the former deputy secretary of DHS, the acting secretary, Ken Cuccinelli in here writing about immigration in DHS. I mean, and then Ben Carson, come on, he's been out there on the campaign trail with the president. So I think this is just ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that you watching this, you're familiar with this. We've been talking, like people have been covering Project 2025 for some time, but like, how did the Republicans think they were gonna get away with one truth distancing themselves from this group when It's all of their people, and they've advertised it. Steve Bannon can't go 10 minutes without talking about how awesome it is. They all do. It's their thing. We know it's their thing, but they don't want it to be their thing, not because they suddenly disagree with it. Importantly, they're still gonna do Project 2025. They're just worried about sort of the implication of being tied to it. Here is Maggie Haberman with more on that.
His aides have actually been very frustrated by a lot of the Project 2025 efforts. It is true that some key Trump advisors are involved in Project 2025. It is true that some of those people would almost certainly staff another Trump administration. But there's a lot of what is in that document that you've never heard Trump talk about, that I don't think that he would actually be interested in. There's a whole also swath of policy that both of you know he just doesn't care about. And so there are specific discrete things that he is interested in. But by answering this, by giving this statement, on the one hand, yes, that statement is now going to be reflected on in most stories going forward in coverage. It'll say Trump says he has something to do with this, but then everybody's going to fact check that statement, and it has just made this into a bigger deal. So this is exactly what Trump's advisors had been concerned about for some time. Is this statement going to make this go away? It doesn't really seem like it.
Yeah, and I don't see why it would. It should not. This is all super obvious. And as she points out, yeah, they're totally gonna do this. Not only because they do agree with the vast majority of the components of Project 2025, but also, as she says, Donald Trump has a few terrible things he wants to do. And then outside of that, like, just lazy, just do whatever you want. He doesn't want to have to pick people. He doesn't want to have to staff these offices. So he's going to be like, just you do it. I'll outsource it. You choose whatever crazy January 6th insurrectionists you want and just flood the EPA or the DEA with it. And that's what you'll have. Now, they are really trying, not just publicly to distance themselves, but privately as well. Trump advisors Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles have been attacking the group. They've also been meeting with the group, apparently 5 meetings where they've asked them to tamp it down. They've told, like, notice, they're not saying, hey guys, you are talking as if you're gonna have any influence over the White House, and you're not, because you're radicals, and we don't agree with that. That is not what is going on. They're saying, could you just cut it for a little bit? We're gonna let you in, we're gonna do your thing, but you're making us look crazy. That is what's going on, and it's just that shallow. I'll take you back to the first attempt to distance themselves. It's Donald Trump on True Social saying, I know nothing about Project 2025. Well, that's what he said about QAnon, you'll recall, and he has since tweeted QAnon stuff literally hundreds of times. So you should not put any stock in what he says when he tries to distance himself, when you know that they are ideologically aligned. Sharon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, he didn't know anything about the Proud Boys or David Duke, or he said E. Jean Carroll was his wife. Okay, so yeah. Listen, it's not going to work though, and I think that the BET Awards and Taraji P. Henson has a great deal to do with the fact that it's really getting out there, and people are saying, "What is this project, huh?" And some of the things that are now floating around social media, it's like kind of smacking people in the face, and it's connecting with them in a real way. But it doesn't mean that he's not going to continue to try to pull the wool over people's eyes. And you're also right in your assessment. He doesn't care as long as the litmus test is they pledge their loyalty to him.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's turn now from the attempt to distance themselves from Project 2025 and talk a little bit more about Project 2025 and what they want to do. We've done overviews of the project. Let's focus on one thing that I think should be enough. It should be a deal breaker. We'll turn to that now. Project 2025 now wants to come after your overtime pay. They're calling for allowing employers to eviscerate the already scant protections and regulations that you have to make sure that you are not abused by requirements for overtime, to make sure that you are properly compensated for the extra work that you do. They want to fundamentally change that, and here's how. One proposal is to allow workers to take vacation instead of getting the time and a half compensation, which doesn't necessarily sound that bad at first, although many people I think would prefer to have the money when they're struggling, but it's not even what it seems to be. At least 40% of lower and middle income workers already don't use their allotted paid time off. So what's the point of giving them a few more days? And there are reasons that they don't use it. It's because in practice, they cannot. Okay, under this proposal, employers could coerce workers into voluntarily selecting vacation that they're either formally or informally prohibited from taking. They might understand full well if they take that vacation that they're allotted, that they will lose their job, they'll lose opportunities. That will be it. And what do you know? You didn't have to pay them. They don't get the other benefit. Oops, you got nothing for the extra work that you did and the toil that you went through. Project 2025 further recommends that workers and bosses agree to extend the overtime threshold from 1 week to a period of 2 weeks or 1 month. The likely outcome would be management overloading busy weeks with extra long shifts and taking advantage of slow periods through underscheduling, effectively eliminating overtime altogether. Relatedly, another attack on overtime comes in the form of allowing workers to negotiate away time and a half pay in exchange for non-compensation benefits like predictable scheduling. In effect, this incentivizes predatory scheduling to coerce workers to give up overtime. So instead of getting pay, you can be treated with respect, which encourages them to treat you with disrespect so that you'll give up the pay, so that you'll go back to the status quo that you already had. And the section of Project 2025 that we've been talking about was written by Jonathan Berry, who led the Labor Department's regulatory office under Donald Trump the first time. And he could very well be back in to implement this the second time. And we could go into more details, and we probably will, but I honestly don't understand. If you are a supporter of Donald Trump, if you're a supporter of the right, if you like Project 2025 because you heard a rant by Steve Bannon about it, how does it not bother you that they're trying to screw you over, to make you work longer hours for less pay? I am asking you, no, I am begging you at this late date, have an ounce of self-respect, of an understanding of your own self-worth. They don't value you even as cogs in a machine. You should demand more from the people who purport to lead you. What do you think?
Yeah, and folks like Ken Cuccinelli, who are, on the think tank for this whole nastiness, they're not gonna live by those rules. I'd like to see their contracts, okay? They're gonna actually get paid money for hours they didn't work. So, I don't know why people continue to support things that are not in their best interest, and in fact, can harm them in ways that are, I really think, life-threatening at this point. We talked about how they don't want you to have rights if you're injured on the job, and now they don't even want to pay you. They actually want you to work and probably not pay you. So it's built in, as you said, no respect.
100%. And by the way, when you ask Republicans, these are non-MAGA Republicans, would it hurt if employers were allowed to stop paying hourly workers overtime? 71% say that it would hurt a lot. 14% say it would hurt a little. 6% say that it would help. I assume those people own businesses, I suppose, and don't want to pay overtime. So even amongst Republicans, there's virtually no one that thinks that this is a good idea, okay? But they're gonna do it to you, okay? They get you to elect them by saying like, oh, look at that trans wrestler or whatever, and then they strip away your pay. That is what they're doing to you. It should bother you. I don't understand why it doesn't bother you. Like, I know I'm a lib or whatever, and I mock the right. I show infinitely more respect to the hard work that regular conservatives do on a daily basis. When I say that they should be compensated for that work, then these rich elitist a-holes are showing when they plan ahead of time. They're publicizing that they want to screw you over and take away. They think it's a good thing. They're running on this. It's not something that we got a leaked text message or something. They think this is awesome. Do you? Let's turn now to someone else who I will describe as not awesome. Clarence Thomas. Let's jump into this. Two Democratic senators are now pushing for a criminal investigation of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas for possible violations of federal ethics and tax laws. You have to say possible so that you don't get sued. Not because you believe that it's only possible, but this is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Ron Wyden. So they said that the Senate Finance and Judiciary Committees have been investigating a more than $250,000 loan connected to Clarence Thomas's purchase of a recreational vehicle back in 1999. That loan was provided by Anthony Welters, a friend of Thomas's, and documents obtained by the Democratic-led finance panel indicated that Thomas only made interest payments on the loan. It was eventually just forgiven, the balance of it, in 2008. but Thomas didn't even report the forgiveness as income on his financial disclosure report covering 2008. So while he's a sitting Supreme Court justice, a friend of him gives him a $250,000 gift that he pays virtually nothing on, and then it's canceled, which is income, and he doesn't report it. This is a possible violation of federal ethics and tax laws. Possible. So they're talking about investigating it right now. They've also accused Thomas of failing to report gifts that he received from Harlan Crow, a billionaire friend of his who has business before the Supreme Court and obviously wants to have Supreme Court justices in his pocket. In addition to flights aboard Crow's private plane, they cited yacht trips and lodging that Thomas received from 2003 to 2021. This is literally decades of gifts totaling millions of dollars. Private plane trips, tickets to sporting events, and lodging, and all sorts of nonsense. And so they say, we do not make this request lightly. The evidence assembled thus far plainly suggests that Justice Thomas has committed numerous willful violations of federal ethics and false statement laws and raises significant questions about whether he and his wealthy benefactors have complied with their federal tax obligations. Back in April, Thomas claimed that he didn't have to disclose his gifts. He says, early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary and was advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business for the court was not reportable. I have endeavored to follow that counsel throughout my tenure and have always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. So personal hospitality, handing over millions of dollars, close personal friends that I got after I became a Supreme Court justice. It's amazing how that works out. But don't worry, he talked to someone and they said it was totally cool, Sharon. What do you think?
Yeah, and he's not going to name who he spoke to. And if he's forced to, he'll say something like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It would be people who can't, corroborate this. Okay, no one told him that. And I think they should focus first on, we know he's an unethical jerk, okay, and a self-hater. I think they should focus on the tax stuff. Okay, let's look into that. Because if you're getting, I guarantee you, if you got, I don't know, something nominal under $50 and you did not report it, okay? You're a very valued member of this network, but they'll put you in jail. You would go to jail, okay? Prison for you. And who knows when you would get out for this infraction. So this guy is doing what appears to be criminal activity. He's running game on all of us and he's getting big bucks for it. And he's also probably flying a flag upside down. Okay, we know Ginny Tom. I mean, come on. It's not so hard to imagine. I have no evidence of this. I probably shouldn't have said it, but I guarantee you at one of their homes or maybe inside the RV that was gifted to them, like $200,000, there's an upside down flag.
How about this? Possibly flying a flag.
Okay, possibly. And these are my views, not the network, please.
Yeah, don't send me to jail.
I shouldn't have said it. But that's it. I suspect this. It's in my own head. No proof.
Yeah, and again, I know that we probably don't have many conservatives that are still watching. Maybe Marjorie Green, that's probably it. But I know that you see yourself as being part of a movement that is many things, but one of them always is anti-elite. How you like this? How you like people with lifetime appointments and virtually unlimited power being groomed over the course of decades by billionaires and being given millions of dollars in presents? And how do you like this? How do you like all of this corruption stuff coming out thanks to good reporting from ProPublica and other organizations, and then nothing happens, and now the Supreme Court justices who were already corrupt for decades know that there will be no consequences. They have been freed up. They are above ethical constraints and disclosure laws. And then they turn around and they tell the president that he's literally above the law for criminal violations. So now we have the Supreme Court, we have the president who now have way more power and way less oversight than they did just a couple of months ago. Is this feeling anti-elite to you? Anyway, we're gonna take our second break of the hour, but when we come back, Melania Trump popped up on radar again, very briefly, and we're gonna break down what she was doing after this. Welcome one and all. I'm seeing a lot of comments about hair. John looks like Ken today. T-Pain says, do I look like, I'm just Ken, man, that's all I am. Anyway, John is a silver dragon, thank you. Although the roots are quickly coming in, can you see? They are coming in, unfortunately. There's still a little bit of purple hidden in the middle, just in case. But anyway, let's see what's going on out there. Oh, It's Quiffer says in a super chat, John, you're already cute, but even cuter with that platinum blonde look. Consider it permanently. I have said I like it. That said, apparently bleaching your hair bleach is apparently one of the most valuable resources on earth because it costs an insane amount of money. There's no way I'm getting this done every month, but maybe every once in a while, we'll see. It's just, how is it so expensive? Anyway, let's see. Leo says in a super chat, prediction, the Heritage Foundation for P 2025 is pushing Tucker for VP. The real test of Trump's power is if he can push back if he disagrees. See, I didn't see the Tucker Carlson thing. I'm kind of surprised about that. I feel like they would consider Tucker to be a little bit more of a wild card and they'd want someone more reliable, but I'll have to look. Okay. May Money into Building says in a super chat, isn't there like a vice president? Oh wait, she's black, so the common man can't see her. This tomfoolery is getting out of hand, Iadarola. I'm not sure which story that's actually a reference to. But yeah, like a lot, it seems to have landed on if Biden is replaced, that it will be Harris. So far, at least publicly, Gavin Newsom is being very careful to be supportive of him. And Gretchen Whitmer said that even if he stepped down, it wouldn't be her. So again, politicians lie, but it looks like it would in fact be Harris. Okay, couple comments. Tote Steele like Bronson says, oh man, no one caught my Always Sunny in Philadelphia quote. That is in fact what I was referencing earlier, but I'm glad you caught it. Darth Hefe says, speaking of Mario Kart, the Democrats need a spiked blue shell at this point to stop Trump, it seems. Dun. Sorry, Darth Hefe, you already got a Blue Ribbon gift card yesterday, but that was a good comment, I did like it. Okay, let's see. Over on Twitch, Apollo Racer's been here for 29 months, says hoping there's actually some good news to go with my sub-anniversary. Well, we've got a push for an investigation into Clarence Thomas. That's good. We have the Democrats putting forward some good bills. We're gonna get to that in just a sec. And organization is mocking Exxon. That'll be fun. We'll have that for you. That's all I have right now. Hey, we're gonna spend much of the RNC mocking them, so stay tuned for that. Okay, that said, let's see. Dragon Dancer says in a super chat, happy Shark Week, Dragon Squad. Is it already Shark Week again?
Yes.
Happy Shark Week. Dragon Dancer gifted a Damage Report membership, thank you. Don Quixote gifted 5, thank you to both of you, thank you Don Quixote. Paolo Leverato is a tier 3 member, thank you as always. Moondragon says in a super chat, John, you are Knuff. Thank you, I appreciate that. I gotta watch that movie again. Turbo Jones says in a super chat, Sharon, does Joe Biden's unwillingness to meet his granddaughter from Hunter, Navy Joan Roberts in Arkansas, hurt him with women? Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, but now I'm going to look it up. You know, I love a good tabloid story. If he does, if this is true, I hope he changes course and he will meet her. But no, I don't know. I can't really speak on that. I usually have all the dirt. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not actually really familiar with that one. Sorry about that. Okay, Yukon Man in Twitch has been here for 33 months, says I'm here for the truth and John's hair. Well, you'll get at least one of those. But anyway, Chris Huggy says Project 2025 hopefully will get to the polls and vote for Biden. If you want to lose all your rights being taken away, leaving the country is not an option for many of us. Okay, everybody, let's close out the hour with some spicier topics, a little bit lighter. Let's jump into this. Melania Trump has notably been virtually AWOL throughout this year, not going to New York to show up for Donald Trump's trials and not really appearing with him at any of his big rally speeches or anything like that. But she has occasionally popped up, and it happened again just a couple of days ago. She apparently hosted a Trump Tower penthouse fundraiser for the Log Cabin Republicans, raising $1.4 million, which is a good sum of money for a little one night fundraiser. Bear in mind the last fundraiser she did, and I think she's only done 2 so far, was also for the Log Cabin Republicans. If you're not familiar with the organization, it's an organization for LGBTQ Republicans, effectively. It used to be more influential. The last couple of years have obviously been tough with the right taking up a never-ending anti-LGBTQ culture war. But Melania at least is sticking with them. And this is according to page 6. This is how they word it. She hosted an intimate gathering of mega donors at her and her husband's penthouse that he's probably not even allowed at. I added that part. To drum up donations to the log cabin Republicans, a guest told us hors d'oeuvres and champagne flowed as the First Lady generously welcomed the guests to her home with off-the-cuff remarks, highlighting her and Donald Trump's support for the group. What do you mean generously? That's where the event was. Like, you held an event there. It's not generous at that point. You could donate $1.4 million if you really want to be generous, but fine. Highlighting her and Donald Trump's support for the group. Donald Trump is totally playing ball this cycle with the anti-LGBTQ mania on the right. And that's just a fact. That's just a fact, I'm sorry. So anyway, the funds are raised to go to an outreach initiative for swing state voters, namely suburban women and gay and lesbian conservatives in battleground states. The event set a fundraising record for the LCR. A source said both events were sold out in a short period of time. She was elegant and eloquent. She took the time to speak with everyone. She took photos, gave a beautiful speech about the importance of unity. You know how you get unity, talking about people poisoning the blood of the nation and stuff. She also said about the election, we will see what happens, but we must win. We will see what happens is such an interesting thing to throw in there. Does she actually want him to win? Anyway, we can have that debate, but it is notable that she's not raising money for, like, I don't know, Turning Point USA or whatever, or for a specific candidate. She's raising it for the log cabin Republicans, a group that has perhaps never had less of a place inside of the Republican Party than they do right now. She's not even doing a fundraiser for her husband. And I like that she's sticking with this group if it actually reflects her values. But what do you make of it?
I don't think it reflects her values. I think it reflects a big middle finger to her husband, and this is what she thought of, or those closest to her thought of. I'd like to see her speech. Maybe I'm being too cynical, but I don't, everything you just read there, I don't know if she greeted everyone. She seems a little not gracious wearing that coat that time that said, I don't really care to you. I mean, do you really think that she's sticking with this group? Again, I could be wrong, but I think everything she does now, from ignoring him to sticking it to him, is, par for the course in a toxic relationship. Okay.
Yep.
What's next? She'll pop up with Chris Christie. Who knows? I don't know.
That would actually be very funny.
Yeah,
I would like to see that. Yeah. Well, I just want to acknowledge, I happened to see an article on LGBTQ Nation about how it is a very tough time if you're a member of the LGBTQ community and you're also part of the MAGA movement. You're going to be shocked to find out that can be tough. And so New York had their Pride Parade. And apparently a couple of individuals in the community went, and we're gonna show you a photo right here, had rainbow flags for Trump. And apparently there was a lot of hate, according to one, saying a lot of rich white women with children who feel inclined to come up to you and face off with you. I'm sure there were all sorts of people that were shouting things at them. I'm not surprised by that at all. And look, I want people to be nice to one another. I generally believe we should be polite. And there are going to be people who are gay or lesbian or bisexual or trans, but also, like, I don't know, want the rich to pay no taxes or think the earth would be better off if it was 4 degrees warmer. There are plenty of people who are gay, but also have boneheaded political opinions. But the issue is that the only place for you right now is the MAGA movement, and the MAGA movement hates your guts. They think that you're not people. They think that you're sexual predators. That puts you in a really difficult position. And I don't have an answer for what you're supposed to do. It's the nature of the two-party system. You can't have an alternative conservative party that doesn't utterly despise the LGBTQ community. This is just kind of what you have. Any thoughts?
There's just, again, this hate that is being generated and multiplied out there to hurt certain people who honestly you don't really even come in contact with. I mean, you had on the story of the woman in Hawaii who was mad at people who were, in the lobby doing what they do and started talking to them about, cross-dressing. Is it the drag queens? Well, they weren't bothering her and they really weren't in her purview, okay? So I don't know what it is, but people sometimes thrive on hate. I think love in the tank would perhaps go a lot further. Hate it burns faster, it costs more. It's why they say revenge, bring 2 spoons or whatever. It's just, this is who we are. You can get further with love. I can't believe I sound like this, but I do
100%.
believe it.
Yeah, and I mean, look, if you're a member of the community, like you want to take a look at Project 2025 and what it says about gay people, you want to look tomorrow, by the way, we're going to talk about Agenda 47, Donald Trump's own personal version. You want to see what that says about people in your community? I know, it's rough. It's rough. With that said, let's turn to another issue also being targeted by both of those documents. Let's turn to this. You know how Republicans have supposedly softened on abortion? You've probably seen the articles, they're everywhere. The RNC committee approved this new platform and hey, what do you know, Trump forced them to go soft, okay? They're not gonna be radicals on this topic anymore. That's the old GOP. The new GOP is totally cool with whatever you wanna do with your body. Except about that, Senate Republicans have blocked an attempt by Democrats to pass multiple abortion-related bills focused on access to reproductive health care in advance of the November elections. Here are the 3 bills that were so radical that you couldn't have a vote on them, okay? So 1 protects freedom to travel across state lines to access abortion care. They block that, which I find to be so weird because I keep hearing everybody wanted it to go back to the states. Some states are gonna be really conservative, some aren't gonna be. That's just the way it is. So why can't they go to the other state? If it's about states' rights, why are you stopping them? Why are you criminally prosecuting them for going to a place that have different laws? Weird, almost like that's not actually what they believe. The second protects doctors in states where abortion is legal from being held liable for providing services to patients from other states. Again, this is like, you cannot say that you care about states' rights if you're saying we're going to prosecute people for stuff they do in other states. That's state supremacy. That's not like respect or comedy or being cooperative. And finally, there was a bill that was blocked that supported training to more abortion care providers. Not really surprised that they want to kill that one. But the Republicans blocked all of them. Remember last month, they blocked Democratic legislation on protecting access to contraception and IVF treatments. Which is weird because again, they softened on those things. They're not radicals, they're not gonna stop you from getting birth control or IVF, except that they blocked an attempt to make sure that you can. So again, don't buy the hype, don't get pulled in by the scam. They have not softened on anything except the lead up to the election. And then as soon as the election is done and they're in power, they're gonna get so hard again, trust me. What do you think, Sharon?
You're absolutely right. And then they'll probably, if Trump wins, we'll have several more members of the court to look forward to, okay? And, I think people keep saying Joe Biden, if he wins, should pack the court. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump tries to do it. If he has the numbers in Congress, if he can get it done. Because, why not keep going? You've been this successful at hurting people, taking away their rights, targeting people, diversion tactics while the rich get richer, while everyone's fighting with each other, and they are creating even more horrific economic harm to the rest of us.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Schumer says the Senate is going to vote on Wednesday on a bill, so I guess at some point later on today, to integrate the protections of Roe v. Wade into law. So we'll see if that's any more successful. I have a feeling that the now soft Republicans are still gonna manage to block it, but we'll see. And that is unfortunately all the time we have for the first hour of the show. Thank you everyone who's been listening and or watching. There's more to come in the aftermath, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Big News Wednesday after this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, everybody. John and Sharon. I saw a comment here. Where is it? Haunted Dragon says, I know John never reads my comments, but this will tell him it is less than $20 for bleach and dye hair. I have been doing it since I was a punk goth in the 80s. I don't get why it's $300. Well, first of all, I don't know how much the raw materials cost, but I know that I don't want to bleach my own hair. So I need someone to do it. And apparently they charge like $200 for bleach and dye. So LA's expensive, I guess. I don't know. What do you think it should cost to get your hair bleached or whatever?
I think honestly, I think he's right. You go to one of your trusted drugstores, okay, a chain, and then you go in that aisle and they have like a little thing that you can put the tips on and stuff. I mean, okay, come on.
Oh God, that's gonna end up being devastating.
I think you could do this. You're not gonna burn your scalp. It's gonna be fine. They even have then, if you wanted to do purple again, it's probably gonna cost you like $22.
Yeah,
plus tax.
I don't know. I will say, before I got the purple put on, they dyed my hair. And my just dyed hair wasn't this color. Like this is bleach, dye, fade.
Yeah. They had
So that's what I
tone
want.
and all that stuff. Yeah, they're the toner. But watch a YouTube video. Can you do that?
Okay. I hate YouTube. Anyway, I'm kidding. Brooke Mark says she do it. Okay, well, we'll talk. Okay, with that said, we're gonna jump into some stories in just a sec. But first, a few comments, including from the members. Next, TYT reporter says, I had an argument with people on Facebook who wouldn't believe the billionaires are robbing them. There is a lot of nonsensical worship of billionaires in America. There just is. People believe, whether they can consciously admit it or not, they believe the billionaires are better and smarter than us. I don't get it, but they do. They've been trained to think that. I don't know why. In every movie that a billionaire appears in, they're the villain, and yet people wake up and they're like, Elon Musk is a genius and he's totally not cringeworthy and terrible. Anyway, with that said, let's talk about some other rich a-holes, starting with this.
She said, it's brutal. I said, I have a great idea. How about no tax on tips? That was the extent of my study. One waitress. Marco, you're going to vote for it, I hope. Well, you may or may not be there to vote for it, but you'll be involved. I think they probably think I'm going to be announcing that Marco is going to be vice president. I don't know. Because that's a lot of press. That's a lot of press.
So that is awesome. First of all, because he's being totally honest when he says all of the research he did on his no tax on tips thing is talking to one waitress. And that's not even honest. It wasn't based on his talk with her. It was like, I need something. How am I gonna win Nevada? No tax on tips. But anyway, we'll see if they actually do it. Most of that though was intended to sort of tease Rubio a little bit, because supposedly Donald Trump knows who he's gonna pick as his VP, and Rubio is one of the final 2 or 3, but rather than just announce it, he's gonna drag it out and make Rubio sweat a little bit. And so he did that, he dragged it out a bit. At the rally, Rubio outlined what his strategy would be as VP against Biden's VP Harris. He provided insight into how he would go after Harris if he's picked as the VP, calling her a verified left-winger and mocking her laugh. So it's new, it's something fresh. Of all the crazy left-wing policies they wanted for our country, she has supported every one of them, citing her support for reducing transit emissions and banning plastic straws, though she said the paper ones break too easily. Yeah, reducing transit emissions, that's radical commie stuff. Okay, look, if you think that Harris is some wide-eyed lefty or something, you have a very weird opinion of American politics, but he has to say that. He's staying on script so he can get picked. And I'm curious, Sharon, what do you think his chances are at this point? It's either him or JD Vance, and we'll get into who doesn't want it to be JD Vance, or Doug Burgum, who nobody knows who he is, but he's apparently very wealthy. What do you think?
Well, then, when you talk about the guy who nobody knows who he is, and he's wealthy, that would probably be Trump's pick, so that he doesn't have to worry about that guy, overtaking him. Marco Rubio is such a weasel to say this about Kamala Harris. I think she'd clean his clock in a debate. Okay, what's he gonna do? Pause and drink more water like he did in that rebuttal for the Republicans? Remember how awkward that was? He just is, and all she has to do is call him little Marco Rubio like Trump did. I don't think he's gonna get the nod. I think it's gonna be Vance, and then you play he called him Hitler ads over and over again, and maybe that'll, resonate with some people. Remember that?
So good.
I mean,
yeah.
It's just a mess. But whoever Trump picks, the MAGA, indoctrinated crowd will cheer it. And then he'll point, my blacks for Trump. And then he'll do all that whole thing. And we'll see where it goes. But they're not going to help him. They'll be diminished. Let's just hope that he doesn't try to kill him like the last guy.
Exactly. Jesus. Yeah, being able to play the VP saying he could be America's Hitler. Harris will say that on the debate stage. But again, it's like you pick some random billionaire or you pick the guy who predicted you'd be a dictator.
Yeah.
So that's fun. That said, not all of these are popular choices amongst all groups. They all have their detractors, and I want to run through a couple. So first of all, here is Trump's own son on why Rubio should not be the pick.
I have a good relationship with Marco, but there is some truth about having someone that's a little bit more establishment in there. It's like when the Senate rhinos, wouldn't they love that? I joked, I said that about Nikki Haley. It was like, if it gets her, by the time my father's hand moves off the Bible in the swearing in process on what's the date? Is it January 20th? 12 p.m. January 20th. The second it goes off, it would be like impeachment and gone. That's how fast it would be.
God damn, is he stupid and on drugs? No, they're not going to do yeah, that's what they're going to do. The MAGA movement would be totally cool about that. This group of Republican politicians who barely says anything when Trump attempts to overthrow the government is going to see him sworn in, and live on TV, they're going to impeach him a moment later to put Nikki Haley in there. That's what they'll do. They won't immediately be hunted down and murdered by MAGA in the streets. It's just such a stupid theory. They're not going to do that with Rubio either. And honestly, they don't need to. Donald Trump will either die within a year or two, likely due to the status of his arteries, or he'll get his second term, it'll be done, and then they can try to run someone else or whatever. It's such a stupid theory. Look, if you want to make a case for why it shouldn't be Marco Rubio, I think Sharon made some good points about the fact that he doesn't bring much to the debate in terms of legislation. I don't know if I can name 3 things that he's done in all the time that he's spent in the Senate across multiple terms. I don't think anyone can. And also constitutionally, he's not even technically allowed to be the VP, considering they both live in the same state. Not that Trump cares about the Constitution or anything, but that's the problem with him. But let me also throw out the problem that the MAGA donor class has with JD Vance. So JD Vance, as we already talked about yesterday, has a beard. That might be a deal breaker. But if it's not that, here's what the donors think. So the very same coastal elites who once adored Vance have been trying to sabotage his vice presidential aspirations, according to 3 different Republicans familiar with this. Quote, donors have really coalesced around Burgum and Rubio at this point. Vance, on the other hand, hasn't done anything meaningful in the eyes of some of the more traditional Republican major donors. He's just gone on Fox. Well, what else are you supposed to do in the Republican Party? I mean, I guess you go on Tucker, you go on the War Room. You're not doing anything, but I guess he hasn't done enough to reassure them that he'll have their back. I would remind them all, he'll be the VP. He's not going to do anything except perhaps flee a Republican mob attempting to hang him. So anyway, they're more influential with Trump, I think, than Donald Trump Jr. is. So maybe he's screwed. What do you think?
It's tough. It's tough to, on the one hand, I think it's going to be him. On the other hand, I think that MAGA, the loyalists want to punish him, for the comments and see him as too much of an insider who really is not going to go along with everything. But listen, if he's groveling to this point to be one of the 3 finalists, then I think he's fallen in line. His only job is to salute the dictator and stay alive. And if he could do that and survive the next 4 years or however many the arteries of Trump allow, then I think it's gonna, it's not gonna matter anyway. It's not actually going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, look, there have been a lot of people that have been real tough against Trump early on, and then, well, I still want to be involved in all this and bow down. Is there anyone who's a worse example of that than JD Vance? JD Vance said he could be America's Hitler. Like maybe Lindsey Graham, he said he'd destroy the Republican Party, I guess. I think America's Hitler is a little bit worse. And all he's done since then is fall in line for his own personal benefit. He fell in line to get money and media appearances, and hell, he became a senator as a treat. So yeah, I think he would fall in line. I'm sure he's got all sorts of ambitions for how, he'll be president once Donald Trump chokes on a McNugget or something. But I think while Trump is alive, I think he will go along to get along. Okay, with that said, we're gonna turn to other news in one sec. First, Galfar says in the members' comments, the MSM is only about 3 months behind TYT in the Project 2025 stuff. I don't watch a lot of their stuff, so it's possible that there were some early reports. But it started to pick up a little bit ago. I know John Oliver did an episode about it. I don't know, sometime in the last month, 2 months, something like that. Okay, let's see. Lady FNT, hey Lady FNT. It says in a super chat, Papa John, it costs me $60 a year to bleach my hair and $50 for several colors. Also, my colors last 4 to 5 months before starting to fade. Salons bank on people not doing their own hair. I get that, but I think I'll mess it up. I think I will burn my scalp. You know what you're doing. I just don't know that I would. But anyway, should we do a poll? Do people want me to continue the Homelander, Cody Rhodes, Ash Blonde thing? Let's see. Oh yeah, no, I think we're gonna move on to G behind the scenes. We'll maybe talk more about Don Jr. on tomorrow's show, but I'm good with him for now. Finally, Hockey Dragon says in a super chat, third-party voters / the lack of voter turnout isn't just disenfranchised / suppression. It's akin to going no contact with an abusive, narcissistic partner thanks to the psychological warfare in elections. Yeah, I like the focus on the psychology of it. Yeah, look, the system is absolutely messed up in a lot of different ways, and most of it is entirely intentional. That said, let's turn to something not light, but perhaps a little bit more fun, starting with this.
We understand the road has been bumpy and that we haven't always done the best we could. Sure, our own scientists accurately predicted catastrophic climate change 60 years ago, but we didn't want you to know about it. That's why we spent billions on ads and media manipulation covering it up. Then we rigged the government so leaders in both parties would do our bidding. And yes, we did everything in our power to block clean energy tech so we could keep force-feeding you oil via expanding global infrastructure, monstrous vehicles, and disposable plastics and chemicals that don't go away. Ever.
I appreciate a good spoof ad as much as the next guy, and we ran that one through our lie detector, and there were no lies detected, just truth, harsh truth, delivered by Yellow Dot Studios. That's Adam McKay, the Hollywood director behind The Big Short and Don't Look Up, and a lot of other great work that takes a hard look at the way we get screwed over by our system. And there he's talking about all of what Exxon has done, that we've known they've done over decades, and they're still trying to manipulate us. Let's turn to another part of the ad about some of the gaslighting that they're identifying here.
Every now and then you squawk about how evil we are, but then we drop gas prices a nickel and you shut right back up. Do you have any idea how easy it is to get you off our backs with a little bull about your responsibilities to the planet, about your carbon footprint, pretending plastic recycling actually makes a difference? You're letting us get away with it, you dumb bitches. All of our tricks work. The world is a burning, out-of-control charnel house. The last generation to die of old age has already been born, and you still let oil executives freely show their face in public. We're just one company, but you're 7 billion people. Get off your asses and do something, you peasants. Exxon, me, you.
That is a great ending. I love that. I love the you dumb bitches. I appreciate it, good dumb bitches. But also, I mean, I love the line, the last generation to die of old age has already been born. That is devastating when you think about it. But it's all true and they're still doing it. The Exxon CEO blamed the public for the failure to fix climate change. Like, people want a fix to climate change. They do the personal stuff. They also push for the systemic stuff. They try to put politicians in. They support these policies, but it doesn't happen because our voices don't matter in comparison to the massive amount of money that's out there, money that floods the system, including from corporations like Exxon. And so I love it. I wish we had much more of this stuff. I believe it was Ron Perlman's voice, Technauseated, was asking in the chat. I thought that was very effective. I love to see it. What do you think?
I think it's extremely effective too. I love it too. but I don't know where we go from here because everything that it reveals is something that we should already know, just like Boeing. Okay, what good does it do to have another plea agreement when the families would tell you, you knew about these issues that brought down planes, and then you violated the previous plea agreement, but the government's in bed with them and has many contracts with Boeing, so they're never really going to be held accountable, and neither is Exxon, or BP. Remember when they ruined the Gulf Coast and that CEO said, I just want my life back, when he had ruined the fishermen, the livelihood, all of these things, the environment. He wanted his life back. So I always think it's a good idea when we remind people of what's going on here, but ultimately it's not just Exxon or BP or Boeing. It is, as you said, the systems in America that keep us down, and we don't even get to really vote our interests because we get ignored in favor of big money and donors and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. They've bought the politicians. It didn't even cost that much, and they make many times that with the lack of regulations. And when it comes to energy companies, they're literally just handed billions of dollars in subsidies from the government. And I want to jump to graphic 4. We're going to end with this, just an acknowledgement of one of the most devastating things. And they talked about it in the ad. Exxon knew, like they did the studies on the effect of the burning of fossil fuels and climate change. Like honestly, like among the first organizations that did it. And they knew for decades and decades and decades what would happen. And they hid it and they lied and they just did that. And honestly, I'm glad that people have now realized that. I'm glad that with both BP and Exxon, people know that. But they continue to deny it despite having the evidence. And we are still in that period, not necessarily from Exxon, although Exxon wants to still be part of the solution so they can keep making money as long as possible, but from Republican politicians, every one of whom knows that it's true. They know that it's happening. They just don't care. They don't care about how the effects of climate change will devastate your life, the lives of your kids and your grandkids. They don't care because just like Exxon 20 years ago, they're making money off of this right now. So who the hell cares about your family or the future? Okay, with that said, we're gonna turn to something truly random in just a sec. Do we have time to do another comment or two? I wanna recognize a few people on Twitch. Ireman's been here for 50 months. We don't have a lot of people at 50. That is crazy, but thank you. Says Dragon Squad birthday, my birthday. It's a good day. Is it your birthday as well, Iron Man? Well, that's awesome. Well, happy birthday. Big Leb 65 has been here for 44 months. Thank you. Twitch Akuma for 36. Red Light Dragon for 47. Says Silver Fox John has got me going. Thank you. Chris Huggies at 35 says, I love the Dragon Squad and so happy to share my anniversary with you in chat. Thank you. And Ukami's been here for 46 months. Thank you to all of you. Finally, Ingy Bingy says, make a special hair dyeing episode for members. TYT surely has a girl working there who knows something about hair dye. Hey, we might have all sorts of people working here who know about hair dye. Maybe I'll learn something. But anyway, with that said, we do need to get to our last story. So brace yourself for this. Okay, so that is Valentina Gomez. You probably know that based on her appearance and the fact that the word gay immediately appears in the ad. That's what she does. Now, there's no audio to that because, of course, she puts copyrighted music to everything that she does, so we can't play it. But she is running for the GOP nomination for Missouri Secretary of State. And her ad there about how Priuses are gay until she pulls out her assault rifle that has a drum magazine is just super up her alley. This is what she does. But don't worry, according to her, the Prius is no longer gay, so that's great. I want you to just imagine for a second going through your life and living your life this way, just desperately worried that you might be gay, that the things around you might make you gay or make people think you're gay, and that you are so riddled with anxiety, and yet you think that you should be in charge of things. I don't understand that at all. But I'll remind you, if you are not familiar with her previous ads, she had the ad of her running through a neighborhood talking about how Lupe Fiasco is weekend gay. So stop being weekend gay and run around with a gun for some reason. Or she burned books with a flamethrower once. I don't see what this has to do with being Secretary of State, just burning stuff and shooting stuff. But it's not necessarily the worst pitch to Republicans. She's an attractive woman who talks about guns constantly and challenges people's masculinity. So maybe it'll work. What do you think?
Or maybe she can go kill her dog or something if she hasn't already. It's just, look, I want a gay Prius. I would love a gay Prius, okay? I can't tell you how many times I've gone out on a date or whatever, and I've said, not interested when pressed. Usually you can just kind of let it fade. And I've been asked, well, are you gay? I won't even answer. I won't even answer the question because it would mean there's something wrong with it, okay? I don't care who thinks I'm gay or straight or whatever. And I don't know why these people, these gimmicks, okay? It's like a bad Super Bowl ad that they're doing to kind of prove themselves to be lower than the next person and win office. And it really is a testament to who is doing the choosing of our leaders and who's in charge and who sets the platform. This is so dumb. It really is
dumb.
It's just
pathetic.
So dumb. Pathetic, yes.
Utterly pathetic. Flair Knight said this is getting so cringe. Bass Pro Shop Republicans keep eating it up though. And we'll see if they do actually eat it up. I'm sure there's plenty of right-wing men or whatever that think this is cool because they also are constantly worried about whether they're gay. And no, I support her because I'm not gay. Like the other people are gay.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they support this enough to actually get her elected. We'll find out. That'll be an interesting day for America. Others posted stuff like this. Sorry, honey, you're not pandering hard enough. I like that. Yeah. I think truly tough women who aren't gay have missiles on there. If you only have an assault rifle, you might be a lesbian, or maybe not a lesbian, but at least bisexual. Get some rocket launchers. And so one right winger said, we need to get you in a truck, because that was his takeaway from this, was that it was still bad to be in a Prius despite the fact that she had the rifle. And she responded, I can fit 420 guns in my Prius. How many can I fit in a truck? So first of all, probably more. It's a truck. I think you could probably pile up a lot of guns, but why? Why would you do that? Why do you need 420 guns in your Prius? These people are so messed up. I know that it became very popular on the right to pretend that the left was something, especially young woke lefties or whatever, are this stereotype. But there has never been a lefty that has been as extreme, whatever that's supposed to be on our side, as she is cosplaying for this race on the right. And I hope we never see anything worse. Anyway, that is unfortunately all the time we have for the show today. Thank you, as always, everyone, for watching Big News Wednesday. Thank you, Sharon, especially for being here, as always. Pleasure to have you here.
Naked lady flaps. Just get
What's
the
that?
naked lady, the flaps, they put on the vehicle.
She is a naked lady flap come to life, basically, and meant to appeal to the exact same guy.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for that. Everyone, we're back tomorrow. Tomorrow. Should I keep it as like a surprise, or should I tease? Should I tease? You know what? There is a throwback appearance tomorrow on the show, a much requested throwback appearance. You've been wanting him back. He's gonna be here tomorrow on the show, so you better show up. That's all I'll say. Until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.